All right, let's dive right into this explainer. If you're a business owner or an executive, you already know your digital footprint is basically your modern-day storefront, right? But today, we're zooming way past those basic star ratings. We're going to dissect the absolute financial weight of Google reviews in today's local search ecosystem. We'll unpack the data to show you exactly how to navigate this space so you can balance the massive rewards of a strong profile against the hidden risks of how you actually manage it.
So here's our game plan for today. We're going to cover why Google reviews matter, reactive versus proactive management, organic versus paid generation, response versus volume strategies, manual versus automated systems, and finally, sustainable local reputation building.
Starting off with Section 1, Why Google Reviews Matter and the Stakes of Search Visibility.
Okay, if your business is dealing with any of these 7 warning signs, consider this your wake-up call for an immediate internal audit. We're talking about declining ratings, an underlying current of negative sentiment, or maybe you're noticing the exact same complaints popping up week after week. Even low response activity is a massive red flag. I mean, we've all seen those profiles where angry reviews just sit there completely ignored, right? Well, that basically tells Google's algorithm, and more importantly, your potential customers, that you're asleep at the wheel.
Now, I really want you to focus on this number, 34%. The data definitively shows that customers evaluate businesses 34% more positively when they have just 50 or more reviews combined with an active response pattern. Think about that for a second. Even if your star rating is totally identical to a competitor's, having that active response history gives you a massive 34% edge in customer trust. It mathematically proves that doing nothing has a very real, measurable financial cost.
Let's move to Section 2. Reactive versus proactive management and content suppression versus enhancement.
This head-to-head matchup reveals a fundamental difference in how you approach your reputation. Reactive review removal is all about content suppression. You're basically trying to eliminate negative signals by asking Google to delete reviews. The problem? That only really works if the review explicitly violates platform policies, like spam or obviously fake content. It has a remarkably high failure rate for legitimate everyday customer feedback. On the flip side, proactive content enhancement works by systematically generating high-quality positive reviews. You aren't trying to delete the bad, you're actively diluting its visibility by amplifying the good and building a buffer. It's what we call defensive reputation capital, and you build it before a crisis ever even hits.
This perfectly illustrates the danger of just playing defense. It's the classic Streisand effect. If you try to aggressively remove legitimate negative feedback and you fail, and then the customer finds out and takes it public, your credibility takes an absolute nosedive. Enhancement strategies, however, keep you firmly in control of a consistent positive message, regardless of whether a few negative reviews happen to slip through the cracks. All right, Section 3. Organic versus paid generation and authenticity versus automation.
Let's break down organic versus paid. Organic generation relies heavily on direct customer engagement. So think post-purchase emails, SMS follow-ups, or even just in-person requests. It leverages the relationships you already have with your customers and requires a really minimal financial investment, though admittedly it does rely a ton on internal operational discipline and staff training. Paid services, on the other hand, utilize specialized third-party platforms. They give you centralized dashboards, automated scheduling, and professional copywriting to orchestrate your campaigns seamlessly, especially if you have multiple locations.
When we look at the data, it paints a pretty clear picture. Paid services absolutely dominate in conversion and scale, hitting that 25 to 40% conversion mark thanks to all that optimized automation. Organic methods usually sit around 15 to 25%. And here is the real operational bottleneck you need to know about. Organic methods typically scale very poorly once you push beyond 500 monthly customers, at least unless you're heavily investing in your staff. Paid services, however, maintain their efficiency no matter how high your volume gets. But, and this is a massive but, the key executive takeaway here is a major compliance warning. Paid platforms often introduce a feature called review gating. This is where the system actually tries to filter out customers who had a negative experience before they can even submit a review. Listen, if you utilize aggressive review gating to silence negative experiences, you are directly violating Google's terms of service, which exposes your entire business to some incredibly severe platform penalties.
Section 4. Response versus volume strategies and engagement versus prominence.
Here, we have 2 completely distinct levers to pull. First, response management. This is about systematic replies within 24 to 48 hours. It proves you have active customer care to Google's algorithm, and it provides amazing qualitative trust signals to anyone reading. Second, volume strategies.
These are coordinated generation campaigns designed purely to accumulate review counts. Sheer volume provides that quantitative market validation and the statistical confidence Google needs to push you up into that highly coveted local pack. You know, that prime map section right at the top of page 1. This volume effectively insulates your overall rating against those isolated one-off complaints.
And check out how beautifully these two strategies divide and conquer. Volume acts as your algorithmic weight. It literally improves your ranking position by 8 to 15%. But here's the thing, ranking high doesn't guarantee a customer will actually choose you. That's exactly where response management comes in, improving your click-through rates by 12 to 18%. So the synergy here is incredible. Volume gets you seen, but active responses build the qualitative trust required to actually win the click.
Moving into Section 5, Manual versus Automated Systems and Context versus Scale.
So how do you keep an eye on all this? You can either use manual monitoring or automated sentiment analysis. Manual monitoring relies on actual human inspection. Your staff reads the reviews, which is honestly fantastic for catching nuances, sarcasm, and culturally specific language. But the time investment? It's immense. There's only so much coffee you can give your staff before their eyes glaze over reading hundreds of reviews. Automated systems, however, use machine learning APIs to process, categorize, and extract themes instantly, which lets you detect emerging reputation threats long before they spiral out of control.
The breaking point becomes totally obvious when we look at these metrics side by side. A human can handle maybe 20 to 50 reviews a day with 85 to 90% accuracy. But look at the scalability bottleneck. Staff get fatigued, they go on holiday, they call in sick. An automated system can process over 500 reviews an hour. And yeah, while its initial accuracy is slightly lower at 70 to 80%, it actively learns and improves over time. For growing businesses, especially those with multiple locations, manual methods quickly become a dangerous liability. Automated systems are just absolutely essential for scalable risk mitigation.
And finally, Section 6, Sustainable Local Reputation Building and the verdict. Watch how this all plays out over time. When a crisis strikes, short-term management tactics, like emergency response campaigns or rapid removal requests, might initially reduce negative signals by 60 to 70%. Looks great, right? But look at the 30-day mark. You experience a massive 40 to 50% sentiment reversal because those underlying issues were never actually fixed and new complaints keep emerging. It's basically a temporary illusion of control. In stark contrast, a long-term, sustainable building strategy yields a 20 to 30% permanent rating improvement over 6 to 12 months. It creates durable reputation capital that easily absorbs individual negative events. To summarize our executive takeaway today, reactive suppression carries a very high risk with incredibly low sustainability. Paid gating services offer medium sustainability, but they carry a huge risk due to policy violations. This proves definitively that organically generated reviews paired with consistent response management offer the absolute most secure, algorithm-compliant foundation available to you. Minimal risk, exceptional sustainability.
And definitely remember this number, 45%. Search perception analysis proves that customers trust businesses with a consistent, naturally accumulating positive review history 45% more than businesses showing those erratic, spike and crash rating patterns that are usually created by constant crisis management. Authenticity always wins out in the long run.
We've unpacked the data, we've looked at the algorithms, and we've decoded the consumer psychology. It is crystal clear that relying on outdated reactive tactics just leaves you vulnerable. It really all comes down to making a conscious choice about how your organization handles its digital footprint moving forward.
If you're ready to secure your digital presence and actually build trust sustainably, you can take that next step and visit www.clearmyname.org. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final crucial question. Right now, is your organization stuck putting out yesterday's fires, or are you actively building an impenetrable digital moat for tomorrow? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.